Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape! No! Planet where apes evolved from men.
The only good human is a dead human!
Apes! Do not want war! God damn you! God damn you all to hell!
So, alright people, it is day 7 of Talking Apes. We're nearly to the end. Dylan McCandless, Super DM 64, he's here with me, back from space, back from the weird Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
Yes. What a way to end. No.
And, well, we didn't really end, because we've ended and now we've been rebooted, because now we're going to be talking about 20th Century Fox's Batman Begins approach to Planet of the Apes. They wanted to take things back to the origin, start fresh, start from scratch, and take the series in a new direction. And thus we have Rise of the Planet of the Apes and the ensuing franchise that we're in now, the rebooted Planet of the Apes franchise.
Yes, what a fantastic ride that has been so far.
This is widely considered to be one of the best blockbuster franchises of the last 10 years, one of the best science fiction franchises of the 21st century, and just all around some of the best movies in the last couple of years. And I would definitely agree with all of those things, because we'll talk about it. It doesn't even matter that they're Planet of the Apes movies. That's just kind of like, oh, well, that's part of the really impactful coolness factor. But at the end of the day, you said this right before we started recording, they're character studies about a character, about one singular protagonist, and that protagonist is Caesar, and Caesar is at the heart of why these movies are so effective, because you really get sucked into his journey.
Mm-hmm. And James Franco, we can't forget James Franco.
Well, I was talking about the whole franchise as a whole, because it's a bit odd that in this modern day climate of reboots and franchise remakes and sequels and all of that, your Force Awakens era stuff, that this is not, like, it is part of all that because it is like a franchise that is very popular that's been brought back. But the actual story that's being told is so far away from what that was about that it really does feel like its own thing. Most of the time. There are moments where you go, oh, like, and that's what you're supposed to feel like, because this is the beginning, you know? We've never seen this stuff. Well, okay, so we'll talk about, the first one, Rise, is sort of a remake, and Dawn is a little bit of a remake as well, we'll get there. But this one in particular is a bit of a remake of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Pretty much only in initial concept and the character of Caesar, you know, conceptually. Everything else is mostly original, and we'll talk about where the originality comes from. But that's how it breaks down.
This whole trilogy, in a way, is kind of a mashup of, you know, elements from those last two films of the original run.
This next one strikes me as the one where it's like, this is what probably should have happened after battle, or I don't know. War seems like it's going to be the most, like, we have to really make the most original stuff here, because now they really have to kind of try and at least vaguely connect the gap, you know? Because if at the very least this is going to be the last one with Andy Serkis as Caesar. After this, if we get more Apes movies, it'll probably be further into the future and with different characters.
Let me just say this. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, from what I can remember, one of the better movies of 2009. It stirred up a huge...
2011, D.
Was it 11? Did I say 9?
Mm-hmm. I remember because it was the first year I started working.
Shit. Yeah, 2011. What am I thinking? 2011. Big movie. You know, it kicked up so much interest in the franchise.
I didn't say blockbuster for no reason. It was at the time.
I'm saying the reaction to it that I saw was far beyond anything I would have imagined. It kicked up so much more interest in this franchise than I ever thought was actually out there, especially among people my own age. You know,
I think it sort of reminded people why that concept captured imaginations back in the day. And I think that's why the approach they took was really smart, because it was able to do that. They didn't do it like... I'm trying to think of a good example of something that tried to do something like this, and not necessarily that failed, but did it in a way that was more ironic and more kind of like, you know, like throwbacky. I don't want to say Marvel stuff, because Marvel, they kind of do like a mix of that. Because though that also stands up as its own thing, I think. But I'm thinking more in lines with like, I think maybe like a modern Ghostbusters reboot, like that kind of, that doesn't work as its own thing, but it also doesn't work as a remake of the original movie, you know? Like it fails in this gray area. This hits exactly the like the best notes of all that. It's a really good standalone story, but it's also a really good starting place for this franchise to begin anew.
Yeah. So this movie comes out and does that. It renews interest in the franchise. Then, you know, the second one, 2014, I'll never forget the year that one came out, because that was my favorite film of that year. Dawn comes out and is, again, like I just said, my favorite film of that year, and nearly a perfect movie in my eyes.
Yeah, I watched that again. I watched Rise actually again today. Not in preparation for this. It was on TV at work, so I glanced at it and got re-familiar with the pace, so we can talk about it with some familiarity tonight. But I did rewatch it recently as well as Dawn.
Yeah. So what I'm building to is both of these movies have been great, and if War, which is the whole reason we're doing this series anyway, is our intense preparation for War. If War of the Planet of the Apes manages to stick the landing in the way that the early reviews have already told me it does, then I think this series of films has to start entering the conversation whenever you start talking about best film trilogies ever. Like, it's got to go right up there, I think, with fucking Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. It's got to be in that conversation. Some people would even say Star Trek's 2 through 4, if you can bend the rules enough to consider that a trilogy.
Sure. We're all about rule bending here. The law says you cannot touch, but I think I see a lot of lawbreakers out here.
But that's the level of quality that I think we're dealing with here.
Matthew McConaughey levels of quality.
Indeed. Who directed this one, by the way? Because
Rupert Wyatt.
Obviously, the next two are Matt Reeves.
Rupert Wyatt's a Harry Potter dude, I believe. Maybe.
Is he?
I think so. I'm familiar with the name. There's some background I'll get into, not pertaining to him, because he was kind of just a hired gun here. But he did a good job.
No, there are only I'm only seeing 6 credits to his name on Google, and none of them are Harry Potter movies.
What the hell do I've never seen any of his movies except for this one. What the hell do I know him from then?
Probably just a similar name, but
he must have produced something or wrote something.
But I guess he's still an up-and-comer now, it would seem. But I think he did a hell of a job here.
Absolutely, without question. It's a fantastic movie, and if I didn't remember him from anything else, like I guess I didn't, his name stuck out enough because of how good this movie was for me to remember it. But we'll get into some of the other names associated with it as we get into the movie here. So we hope you've got Rise of the Planet of the Apes ready in the interim. Before we get into it, I just want to say a little bit about, because I didn't really give my distinct, like, here's why I really like this movie. Well, I did, but here's some other stuff.
Got Alzheimer's in it.
Yeah, that's another thing I love. I love seeing people riddled with Alzheimer's dying. It's really funny. No.
Can't play the piano anymore. His dick don't work.
Science fiction wise, we don't get anything like this anymore. A big budget, played straight, modern day, unironic science fiction concept. You know?
Yeah, thank God they didn't take the Star Trek 09 approach. Because
I guess that's another good example of what I didn't want this to be.
As much as I do enjoy the new Star Trek movies, the first and
you
third
don't
ones,
do that with Planet of the Apes though.
Exactly. Planet of the Apes.
Maybe you could, but not with. I don't know.
Planet of the Apes, much like Star Trek, but that's neither here nor there. was always a thinking man's franchise, and I'm glad that they had the courage in this era of Michael Bay explosions to keep it that. And maybe it's just because Tim Burton had already tried to make it more of a dumb action movie and failed critically that they were like, I guess we got to go back to being smart. But whatever the reasoning, I'm so glad that that's what we've wound up having.
Absolutely. I just think this movie, it also just, pacing-wise, it tells a story that we don't get a lot in a modern movie. It spans a lot of time. Everything takes place over the course of, like, 3 days nowadays, you know? Everything is, like, a fast-paced thriller, you know? We don't get stuff that's kind of like, oh, then 2 years later, oh, now 4 years later. I really like that this is, like, a really long kind of saga. Of course, Dawn isn't that way, but that's for different reasons, and then that naturally makes sense. This just really effectively and naturally and engrossingly tells a story in a way in a way that other stuff like this just doesn't, and it's really, really cool.
It's kind of biographical in a way, you know.
It is a little biographical, yeah. It's about like a political revolutionary, which is ultimately what it is.
It's a tale of a man and his monkey, a tale as old as 1968.
Is there anything you don't like about it going into it before we watch it again?
Nothing specific that I can remember, so maybe
That's what's weird, because I like Dawn more. I don't know why, though. Like, I don't know what about this movie makes me go, yeah, but Dawn is better. Maybe it's because Dawn, just like, where they take everything is so insane and really brilliant, that this just feels like an that just feels like an extension of what they set up here. But I think what it also comes down to is that Dawn doesn't have the base of James Franco and a bunch of other people in a basic kind of modern day world, you know, kind of action movie setting. Like, you know, this is set in the real world of present day San Francisco. It's got that backdrop. Perhaps we can say that that's a little bit of a safer and a little bit of a more kind of typical backdrop that's atypical of Planet of the Apes, and also maybe just doesn't lend itself to as imaginative of an era. I don't know, however you want to word you know, the fact that the backdrop isn't as unique. But
yeah,
I would actually say that Rise, for me, like, when I saw this movie in theaters, like, it blew me away. Like, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they got this, like, they got this that right, because my god, they could have fucked it up so bad like Tim Burton did, but they didn't. And Dawn, I was like, oh god, all right, yeah, this is really good too. And I think Dawn impressed me because it was a sequel that didn't fuck it up, and it also felt very distinct. They're also very distinct movies. That's also a really important thing, and that's why I think it's nice that we're going to outline this one in particular, because I think that Dawn has outshined it in terms of, like, it's sort of been like a Dark Knight, Batman Begins situation, maybe a little less so because this one made more money. But at the same time,
I'll say this as to why I think Dawn better. For me, I find Dawn to be a lot more memorable than this movie. Like, I love both of them, and they're very close to each other in terms of quality, I think. But, like, just in terms of, like, the plot, I can pretty much remember everything that happens in Dawn. This, I kind of remember the broad strokes, and then a lot of the shit in the middle.
It's not a plot. It's a building sort of character piece, as we said before. The next one is more of a political drama, isn't it? And therefore, it's a little more of a plot.
Right. I think it's because I don't watch it as much as the original 5, and I don't have the nostalgia and years of watching it as a kid that I have with the Tim Burton one. But I don't remember all of what happens in it. Whereas Dawn, I remember all of it. You know, it's pretty vivid in my mind, and that's the one that I had the huge theater experience with, because I didn't get around to seeing Rise in theaters back in 2011.
Holy shit, for real? That sucks.
Yeah, I didn't used to go to the movies very often anyway, because money. But
I see. Oh, well, it was one of my favorite theater experiences that year. That and Captain America: First Avenger. They really blew me away. But yeah. So I suppose. One other thing I'll say that I think makes this one maybe a little more problematic than its successor. The other human characters around Caesar. So James Franco, we'll get into his character of Will Rodman. I think he's fine. There are some things where I'm like, don't love that. But all of them are easily not as developed or as interesting or as mind-blowingly like engrossing as Caesar is. They're all interesting because of their relationship to Caesar. That, I think, is one weak link of Rise. Dawn doesn't have that. Everybody is pretty uniquely developed and stands well on their own as a real person. I don't know if this one has that. I think there's a lot more archetypes because of how much time we're spanning. It feels a little more like, well, this is this person's role and this is this person's role. Like the asshole pilot who's a next door neighbor, you know? All of that, like all of that stuff, like they feel more archetypical. Yeah, like he's terrible. He's awful.
Yeah.
So I think that characters like that, also Will Rodman's girlfriend.
I think my favorite human character, is John Lithgow. I think he's great in this movie. What is it about actors playing people with some kind of disability? I think it gives them something to work with, and they tend to hit it out of the park a lot. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the performances that people talk about is like, oh, this is fucking great. And it tends to be one of those.
It gives them an instant depth of something that impacts them, and they can kind of work with.
So Lithgow in this movie portrays the whole Alzheimer's, or maybe I think it is said to be Alzheimer's, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely Alzheimer's. ALZ-112.
In the real world, and I know this because my mother works with the elderly, they can't really straight up diagnose Alzheimer's without doing an autopsy. I don't think. They just call it dementia. But really, yeah,
I didn't know that. They can't be like, he probably has Alzheimer's.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can't do shit like that anyway in any kind of medical profession. They have to be sure about things. In the
really?
Popular...
You can't be like, listen, bro, I'm gonna be real with you. You probably have Alzheimer's. I don't know that for a fact because I have to kill you if I wanted to know for sure, but you probably have Alzheimer's.
Wait a minute, I'm looking at the wrong chart. You've got AIDS. What am I thinking?
Oh, well, you'd also have to be dead for us to be sure of that, but again, like, realistically, like, I'm looking at your dick right now, you probably got it. Like, that's a dick full of AIDS right there is what that is.
You know what? This has got to be a typo. This chart says that you have Alzheimer's, AIDS, and Ebola. Nobody's that unlucky.
And if you had Ebola, oof, the AIDS would be nothing. Like, the AIDS would be running out of your dick, scared.
And it says here that you live in Detroit. Like, nobody has that many things wrong with them. I gotta go check this. No, but
and you're Catholic?
Anyway.
No, just...
Where did the priest touch you? No, but
JK.
That went way off the rails. Lithgow does a great job.
I love all religions.
And if you poor people haven't had time to pop in your DVD of Rise of the Planet of the Apes yet, then you're just I can't help you.
Do it. All right, let's press play. In 3, 2, 1, play. I had a little tiny delay. Did you have a little tiny delay?
Yeah, I'm at 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9.
We're exactly
10.
lined up. We hope you're exactly lined up. Welcome to Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I almost said Rise for the Planet of the Apes, which is what they say before the movie starts. We're like, everybody rise for the Planet of the Apes. Everybody stands up.
Now, do you personally think that this should have been called Dawn, and the other one should be called Rise?
No. They should have picked. They should have picked one. Dawn is the better title, so they should have called this one Dawn, and then called the next one "Don't Build a Dam on the Planet of the Apes."
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the next one should be called Rise, but Dawn does make more sense for this movie.
They
I'm not
definitely
sure.
shouldn't call the next one Rise. That would be weird. But they should. I think it's fine here. I actually like the original title better, which was just Rise of the Apes. But they thought they had to keep Planet of on there for continuity's sake.
I agree.
That's really no. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it works better because the gigantic long titles are awesome, and they should always do that. But I think they should. They definitely. We got the best of everything. This movie is just the perfect storm.
I feel like I'm about to watch Brendan Fraser swinging through trees.
You clearly watched again, I almost said George for the Jungle. George of the Jungle way too much when you were a kid. Wow, look at how real those monkeys look. That's just crazy. 2011.
First of all, George of the Jungle's a great movie. Second of all, those apes do look quite fantastic.
Did you really have to correct me? We interuse monkey and ape all the time. I thought you were a friend in that respect.
No, I didn't even realize that you had said monkey.
Look at that shot. Jesus, that's like a real. This looks like real footage of chimpanzees.
Are you sure some of these aren't close-ups of actual?
No, I can tell that it's the motion capture. I can tell that they're based on shots of real chimpanzees that I've seen, but.
So there's a prequel comic that I have not read because what's the point? And it's about this tribe of apes just before they get hunted.
I don't care about that. This is all you need. I guess what they would try to do is like mirror some of the Planet of the Apes thing that would go on later in the Tribe of the Apes, but that's a little ridiculous. I don't need that.
I guess. Yeah, I guess it's kind of what we wound up getting in Dawn, and ultimately having it in Dawn is a lot more interesting because they're intelligent.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, that's why that's good there. Oh, by the way, this is another thing that just makes this movie so good and standoutish, is how incredibly well-paced it is. Like, we get just enough of every little bit to really develop the story here.
Right. I wouldn't say it's as well paced as the classic series always tended to be.
I don't think it's as good as the original movie. And I think that a lot of people will disagree with me on that. Like, people are like, oh, it's a bad old 60s movie. You know, the original 60s Planet of the Apes movie is still better. But this is a good movie regardless of being Planet of the Apes. But in the franchise, in the scheme of the franchise, I still think the original is better paced. This one has its clunky elements. Again, I think the characters are really the only thing that really have merit in that respect is that they're a little clunky.
I just realized if anybody who's listening to this commentary is a fan of the Netflix original series Orange is the New Black, that other scientist who gets sick later on in the movie is in Orange is the New Black. Holy shit, I never realized that before because this came out before then.
When I first saw this, I thought he was a mutant. I thought he was like the beginning of a mutant.
Why? Because he looks kind of like Koba.
I guess, but just because he gets sick and and when they find him dead, he has like blood and shit all over him. But when they find him dead, like when I started thinking about this movie later, I imagined he looked way more fucked up than he really did. When you see him, he's just got some blood on his face. That's it. But I think that would have been cool. What I was gonna say though was,
I also remember liking this black guy in the movie.
I think he's okay. I think that he's a little too stereotypically evil. Again, I think he falls into the role of like he's an archetype, and there's a lot of characters in this movie that are archetypes.
He doesn't strike me as evil at all. I don't know where you get evil. He just strikes me as.
Towards the end, when Koba's like having his moment of revenge and everything, he's clearly supposed to be like the maybe not evil, maybe evil is the wrong word, but like misguided, like, you know, rich, kind of greedy guy.
Yeah, misguided, sure. I'll give you misguided. I didn't mention it before, but that little puzzle they were having the ape work on was, in my opinion, a nice little callback to some of the tests from Escape.
Escape, and in the original book. So this movie, again, why I think it's so good is it doesn't need to be a Planet of the Apes movie to be good, because ultimately it's about a chimpanzee who gets taken in by a man and then gets alienated from the society that man is a part of because of its inability to truly be a part of it. And that was all that the original concept was when it was created by, I believe the original writer's name was Rick Jaffa, and he was reading an article about such ideas, chimpanzees who were taken in by humans, and then they grew up and they became very alienated and aggressive, and the relationships always ended in tragedy. And that was the
I remember there was a huge rash of stories about chimps tearing old ladies' faces off, if you remember. It was a huge thing for a while.
I believe that was the exact article that he had referred to. And that was his idea.
Weird. There were like, if I remember correctly, there were like 1 or 2 cases of that happened like it was like the creepy clowns of that year, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it was. Well, and I laughed, but yeah. I remember there was a whole Animal Planet documentary series called My Deadly Addiction, or something like that, where it was like they had pets, like exotic pets and shit, and chimps were often featured in those episodes, and they always ended up like ripping people's genitals off and stuff.
My Deadly Addiction was more about... I've seen that show. That's not the one you're thinking of, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember what that one was called then. I can't remember what My Deadly Addiction was about.
Or My Strange Addiction, I think it's called.
Yeah, whatever. Something like that. So...
I wonder... This is an interesting question I never considered until now. I wonder if the people who wrote this movie read the original book at all. Like, it's obviously the people who made the original movie based it off the book, and even whoever wrote the Tim Burton version took some cues from the book, interestingly enough. But this movie...
It's not that story, so I don't even know if it matters. It obviously would have been nice, but they're not telling that story. They're telling, like... They're telling the little bit... They're telling... No, I know what you mean. But they're just telling the little bit in that story that they pull out of that human woman.
At this point, we're adapting the adaptation. It's interesting.
Well, at this point, we're telling an original story from the foundation of a previously made adaptation. Because again, the Planet of the Apes stuff was added in later. Rick Jaffa wrote an original screenplay based on that concept. Then he was like, "Oh shit, this is like Planet of the Apes," because his whole idea was the ape would then like revolt against humans, and he was like, "Oh, okay, so I'm basically doing Planet of the Apes here." So then he got his wife involved to actually get 20th Century Fox to get the rights. He wrote the script first, though, then sold them the script, and they bought it. And that's the really interesting thing to me. 20th Century Fox wasn't looking to reboot Planet of the Apes. At least they weren't doing it overtly. Rick Jaffa came to them with, like, here's a way in which we can bring this back. And they bought into it.
That may be one of the reasons why it wound up being... what I was talking about before, wound up sticking to like being a smart movie rather than, conforming to some of the...
There's passion and conviction and merit and a reason to exist here that just so many reboots of franchises don't have. Like, think about this compared to the recent RoboCop movie. Did you see that?
Yes, unfortunately I did.
I don't think that movie is that bad. I think that it suffers from trying to be this movie, because it tried to be like, oh, we're going to do like a modern, fresh take, but they retold the original story, and that was their big sin.
Now, the problem with the RoboCop remake is they're trying to do like clever satire like Paul Verhoeven did, but they're totally tone deaf about it.
Oh, yeah. If any of that movie has any kind of semblance of satire, it's bad.
Paul Verhoeven...
The Samuel L. Jackson stuff isn't bad in that.
But it's
paper thin. It's paper thin. But to be fair, the stuff in the original movie isn't subtle.
The only reason you're saying, and I think if you think about it hard enough, you'll probably admit this to yourself. The only reason you're saying the Sam Jackson stuff in that movie isn't that bad is because it's fucking Sam Jackson. They could read the phone book and you'd pay attention.
They wrote it with him in mind, though, so I think that's why it works.
But the mere fact, like, imagine if Paul Verhoeven had been so stupid as to have a character in the original RoboCop, let's just say played by Danny Glover, because I kind of consider him the Sam Jackson of his day, just spending half the movie explaining the movie to you. Let me explain the plot of this movie.
Well, I guess that's the difference, is that in the original, the news cutaways were always indirectly related to what was going on.
They were just world building.
Yeah, and that's not that's not real. Well, that's sometimes like the stuff with the drones in the other countries. Like, I like all that in the new one. Why are we talking about RoboCop?
I don't know. You got to start it on that.
Well, I brought it up as an example of something that I think tried to be like this and failed.
I think the connection you're drawing between this and that are a bit tenuous, but I take your meaning.
Because it's trying to retell the origin of it now. And that also tries to do it in a different way by, like, that also tries to be like, oh, we're trying to do, like, a standalone thing that doesn't have to be RoboCop, because they do the whole, it's more of, like, an injury, like a prosthesis, than it is, like, a being, like, a guy dying and coming back to life as a cyborg, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I think connects it to this, where it's got the elements of the themes behind how we treat animals and the relationships that are formed between animals that are taken in by people, and how they can be alienated by the society around them. Again, I think that's what really works here. But again, at the end of the day, this movie it wasn't 20th Century Fox scrambling for 10 years with Oliver Stone and Tim Burton and Peter Jackson and a bunch of other people trying to make something that would make money out of Planet of the Apes again.
No.
This was this was like a script from a guy who had a really good idea, who happened to stumble into like, oh, this would make sense as Planet of the Apes, and then sold it to Fox, and they decided to go with it. And it really is just the perfect storm.
And ultimately, that's how the best of these stories tend to happen. Somebody has an idea and they pursue it. You know, the
decision to make it a retelling of Caesar, like a reboot of the character of Caesar with different motivations, like that's all really brilliant, and that all came about rather naturally. Again, it was just him. It was just him.
That's how the story of the first movie went, you know. Dude read the book, he thought this would make a good movie, and then he pursued it tirelessly until somebody finally gave in. And then look where we are now.
Interestingly, this movie does have another parallel to the original in that it does have a ghostwriter. Although I believe the guy who kind of ghostwrote the original at the time has been credited since then. But
you know, if the people who wrote this movie, the guy you were talking about with the ape idea and this ghostwriter, do you know if they were involved in Dawn, or did they have different writers for Dawn?
I believe Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver are producers on all three, so they probably did write the script again.
Okay.
I'm gonna look that up real quick, though.
If so, dude's a damn good screenwriter. I wonder what else he's done.
You would kind of hope so, because A, those movies feel really consistent, and B, you want a sense of consistency.
Yeah,
they had help. I'm wondering if it's the same help they had last time. Because, again, the ghostwriter wasn't credited. He's not going to be credited when we see the credits later on. I'm wondering if it's going to be listed. Yeah, no, I got to go back down into the actual part about it.
So now we have, Harry Osborn and Lord Farquaad starting to realize that this is not a normal baby Roddy McDowall they have. This is an incredibly smart and capable baby Roddy McDowall.
So Mark Baumbach ghostwrote this movie, and by ghostwrote I mean he did another draft based on the one that Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver sold to Fox. Apparently all he did was add more Planet of the Apes references. And you know what I think that amounts to?
He's probably the guy. He's probably the guy in charge of turning this script that wasn't intentionally a Planet of the Apes movie into a Planet of the Apes movie.
No. Because Rick Jaffa wrote his original script with Planet of the Apes in mind.
Okay.
That he came up with that idea. That's why he got his wife involved. He was like, "Hey, this is going to be bigger because I want it to be this franchise. So you got to help me make this possible."
Do you like this first time skip montage thing we got going on here?
Yeah, I think that's why this is so well paced. Like, we don't need to see him as a baby. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's good that they just like move on very naturally and very believably with this framing device of him doing a research project on him. Like, it's all just the perfect storm here. Everybody's motivations are really clear in this part.
We didn't need the movie to be Boyhood on the Planet of the Apes, although that could be interesting. So yeah,
No.
obviously some time skips are necessary.
But I just like his motivation for this makes sense. Like, he's researching it because he wants to understand it because he thinks it might help his father and it might help him understand his research better. The only thing that doesn't make sense with the passage of time is his dad. This is fine. Like, we see he's getting worse, so that makes sense. But he doesn't seem to age at all. Maybe that's just because...
How much time has actually passed?
Not yet. It's going to be more noticeable later when Caesar gets older. Because he dies very late into the movie. Spoilers, if you haven't seen this yet.
If you haven't seen this movie before, please don't watch it for the first time with us talking over it. Go experience it like a person, and then come back.
So all I think Mark Bomback added, Planet of the Apes was in there already, so Caesar was the character. He starts a revolt to conquer the world, all of that. I think Mark Bomback added the Icarus thing. And I think he also added in the stuff towards the middle and the end or maybe not created it from scratch, but added stuff to it. With Caesar in the Ape Sanctuary, because that's all supposed to directly mirror Charlton Heston's stuff in the original movie. I read that up as well before we started. That's all very specific. And I think that Mark Bomback added that as well. He didn't add that. I think he made that more similar to the Charlton Heston thing. He added the stuff with the hose and the blanket.
I imagine they brought him in because he was probably very familiar with apes. He was probably a big fan, and so they brought him in to make it even more of an Apes movie than the first guy had already done. You know what I mean? Is the idea that I seem to be getting from what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the other guy
it
realized was a Planet of the Apes script pretty late in the game, and so he could only have added so much connective tissue. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think he really...
I think all the sly references that are in this movie, and it's packed with them, are to do with the Ghost Rider that you're talking about.
Well, he wasn't a ghost. He did a draft that he wasn't credited for, because I think the story is pretty much intact. It's just the specific names and stuff. I think Mark Bomback probably named the orangutan Maurice. He probably named the female chimpanzee Cornelia. He probably named Draco Malfoy's character Dodge Landon, named after the other two astronauts in the original movie. He probably wrote in the script to have Charlton Heston movie playing in Ape Sanctuary.
Did he come up with the idea of making it Caesar, or was that already in there?
Yes, he did. Again, like I said, he realized it was going to be essentially a remake of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes when he decided that the direction would be alienated from society ape decides to revolt against society. He's like, oh, that's Planet of the Apes, that's specifically Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, I'm redoing the character of Caesar. He was a fan as well, seemingly, because of how quickly he came to that conclusion. At least that's how it comes off when he talked about it.
Right. Being such a fan, it's interesting that he didn't realize it sooner than he did.
I don't think you wrote a draft that didn't have the Planet of the Apes connection. I think this is all conceptual. I think it's all him thinking about... I think initially he just didn't know he was going to go the direction of the ape would try to take over or revolt against human society. I think his just initial idea was to do a story about a chimpanzee who had a tragic falling out with their owner, you know?
Right.
I think then he decided, oh, I should make this a sci-fi thing. Like,
I do also like.
I don't know if initially his concept was it'll be a hyper intelligent ape, you know, that was exposed to this wonder drug via its mother. We should talk about that as well in detail. I think we should talk about it now because we're kind of developing it slowly. So I think that's a brilliant way to do Planet of the Apes now. Right? Because that was always the big question. How do they get so smart? And to make that the precipice for the whole thing, bravo. Good job, Rick Jaffa and or Mark Bombad or Amanda Silver. just
Well, the virus is a genius plot device because not only does they use it not only to explain the intelligence of the apes, but also the downfall of the humans. The two things are linked, which is perfect. Since they're not going the nuclear war route, they need something to connect those two things, and they do it through this virus. It's sort of a one-size-fits-all plot device.
and it comes from this drug that our main human character has created, which has also made our lead ape smart. It's a brilliantly conceived and written and executed film, ain't it?
Yeah. Nice. Now when you watch Dawn and you see all those humans suffering, you can be like, damn, James Franco, you fucked up.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that makes, I think really makes him a great character, both retrospectively and also in this movie. Is this James Franco's best movie?
It could be.
Is it better than Spider-Man 2? I think it's better than Spider-Man 2.
While Spider-Man 2 was James Franco's best turn as Harry Osborn, I think this is probably better.
Without question.
James Franco, very hit and miss for me. Sometimes he's great, sometimes he's horrible. It just depends on the script, really.
Sometimes he's gone for most of the movie. Alien Covenant.
Unlike Dave Franco, who can go die in a hole, I think this kid's got some talent that you can build on. And I think this
35-year-old child has some talent, yes.
Exactly. And I think this is, it's Hollywood. They're all kids from producers.
That's true.
They'll say, come on, kid, I'll make you a star. And they're like, I'm 45.
Big budget high school. You're right. There are some awkward moments. That was an awkward moment. I don't think he's good all the time in this. I do think that maybe if they had gotten another actor for this role, I wouldn't have been displeased. But I do think that the script is so good. Again, I think that's why this is his best role.
I think the problem is when he's trying to be charming with the lady.
Yeah, it's really like, oh, nope.
Because James Franco trying to be charming, it always turns into that fucking mugging that he does.
It always turns into like, somebody please call the police.
Anyone out there who hasn't seen Oz the Great and Powerful, don't bother. Part of the problem with that movie,
I heard that was okay.
It's okay, but he's doing that through the whole damn thing.
He's an odd choice for that character. He's a better choice for a bad scientist like he is in this.
There are moments when he drops the facade in that film, and he's all right. But for the majority of it, he's doing his typical James Franco mugging thing, and I don't like it. That's why I don't like Dave Franco, because that's every second of that kid's life. It's just that face.
Mm.
I liked him in 22 Jump Street because in that movie he was a prison bitch, and that made me happy. But other than that,
why San Francisco? Reference to escape and conquest and all that.
Possibly. Also, they got to get that Golden Gate Bridge scene, man.
That's true. I guess that was probably in the original concept, so they wanted that bit in there.
I mean, what would they have done if they had set it on the East Coast? Brooklyn Bridge?
I guess.
That's not dramatic. There's no woods on the other side of that. Not a big, red, pretty to look at bridge.
No, there's just trash, a.k.a. Brooklyn.
Christopher Walken's never swung an axe at Roger Moore on that bridge.
No. Zilla was shot on that bridge.
It's really the perfect bridge to do this movie with, because on the one side you've got the city, and on the other side you've got the forest that Caesar wants to escape from. So it's literally his bridge to freedom.
It's good they established this now. This is a good montage and time skip as well.
Yes, I think all of those are handled pretty well in this.
We'll see if there's one we don't like.
The effects in this, super groundbreaking, especially for 2011. Dawn and War have outshined it, though.
Yeah, it doesn't all look great now. There are some moments where I'm like, oh, okay, this is CGI.
Looking back, like right now, I don't think that shirt don't look right. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. There are specific moments. We'll talk about it. When Caesar speaks for the first time, that doesn't completely hold up.
It's like when you watch Jurassic Park again, and all the shit at night and in the rain still holds up. But then the raptors are running around during the daytime, and you're like, oh, okay.
This also isn't a post-apocalypse. This takes place like in like pristine daylight, so there's like this shine to everything that makes it look a little glossier.
Right.
So I guess that's part of it as well. But this all looks pretty amazing. And I think we should definitely start talking about Andy Serkis, no?
Yes, Andy Serkis, the wonderful Andy Serkis, the ever-talented Andy Serkis.
So this is not the first time he's played an ape. King Kong, obviously the first time that I believe he mocapped for an ape.
I personally believe, and a lot of Gollum fans would disagree with me on this, and I get it, I love Lord of the Rings just as much as they do. I personally believe that Andy Serkis as Caesar is the highlight of his career so far.
I would agree.
Like,
we also talked
and
about
part of that-
very recently is that he's also very good as Kong.
Part of that is that the mocap technology obviously has advanced a whole lot since 2000, 2 through 4 or whatever. I don't if those were the exact years that the Lord of the Rings films came out. I can't quite remember. Might have been 1 through 3. Anyway, so yeah, technology has advanced, but also, man, he's been doing it for a long time now. He's fucking seasoned.
Yeah.
Man, Andy Serkis is the modern day Lon Chaney. He is the man of 1,000 faces. He can be anything because he's attached himself to this technology. And my God, fantastic. If you had to replace Roddy McDowall with anybody in the modern day, Andy Serkis is probably the best option that I can think of.
Yeah. And again, he already had the experience with Kong anyway, so he was definitely the right choice.
He had to be a gorilla in that, and he's a chimp, so it's slightly different, but he's got the...
He's also playing a monster in that, and this is obviously more of a true character. I like that he's really the lead, and he really becomes the lead here. Like, prior to this, he's been a baby and growing up, and James Franco's been kind of the main character. Right here, I think we really start to take a dip towards Caesar taking the lead.
Yeah, he shares this movie with James Franco.
But there is a turn, and I think we're starting to see the turn now, where it becomes more his movie.
In the next film, he gets to be the main character, like no doubt. Like,
thank God. I was worried about that when they had Jason Clarke's character in the marketing, and he's not the main character of that movie at all. He's a supporting.
No, well, he takes over for a little while when we think Caesar's dead, but other than that, it's all
That's
Caesar's
true,
movie.
but we spend a lot of time with Koba and Caesar's son as well.
That movie has a pretty outstanding sort of ensemble going on.
I love that every movie has a different human cast.
Yeah, well, they all either die or run away.
Well, there's always a big time skip, and while in between Dawn and War, yeah, it's because everybody's dead. Do you think we'll know what happened to Malcolm, or do you think they'll just be like, he disappeared?
Do you wish maybe we could have had at least one human character stick around throughout the 3, be the McDonald?
No, I don't give a fuck. Caesar's the protagonist. He's the one. Him, Maurice.
I would have been all right if John Connor had stuck around for the 3rd movie.
John Connor? No, because he doesn't. His
I couldn't remember the actor's
Caesar making him put his family above all this war is important. Like, for what's going on in that movie.
That's true. And it couldn't have been James Franco either. Would have wanted to see.
No, he needed to die because he deserved it.
Although I like what they did with him in the sequel. Very
Yeah, no, I really like that they go back to the house. It looks nothing like this house, but...
Oh, it's the hoose.
The hoose, indeed.
I like that he tries to use the cure to cure Dad.
Yeah, so John Lithgow also great in this. I really like...
It works at first, but after a while, no.
It's twofold. So here's the thing. I like that the idea is partially that, yeah, James Franco starts giving him the drug, but also he brings Caesar into their house, and he also meets this girl, all because of Caesar. James Franco's life starts to get better because of Caesar, and also because of his dad. So there's a lot of, inadvertent him taking advantage of the people around him that kind of leads them all off to bad places, because the drug doesn't kill his dad. I don't think.
No. I think it's because doesn't he make another version of it that's like worse because it doesn't work with
the gas version is turns out to be potent to people.
Right, that's 113, right? And this is still 112.
Yeah. Well, remember, he's about to give his dad the 113, and then he refuses it, and he dies anyway. So had he given it to him, he would have died anyway.
Right.
Interestingly. I wonder what changed. And I wonder if because I guess like the 112 is presumably more effective, or at least in the short term. Because, I mean, it worked for a couple of years, clearly.
Yeah.
On his dad. So I don't know what he fucked up on when he made the 113. Maybe it was just because it was a gas. Oh, Caesar's building a Statue of Liberty. That's great. I always forget about that.
Now, what was the thing? 113, that was the runtime, right, of the original movie?
112 is the runtime of the original movie. 113 is the runtime of the sequel, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Could be wrong. We watched both of them. I just don't remember. You know what? He actually does look a little older here than he did earlier in the movie. Even if they didn't do it intentionally, he looks that way. It might even just be in Lithgow's performance, so...
Yeah, I think it's probably in his performance. I think he's putting on more of a sick demeanor.
Yeah, I think it works really well, though, and I don't have the problem I thought I was going to have. I like that Caesar accidentally hurts John Lithgow, too. And this is also a good bit because it shows that Caesar could have very easily been like a Free Willy type of character, like done nothing wrong, just been like a pillar of like morality. But he
and to be honest, he is still showing a lot of restraint because he could have tore this guy's
well,
face
of
off.
course. I mean, he's verging on, like a proper human intelligence here. So he's not there yet. He's going to get there once he gets put into captivity. But
I wonder.
See, this is the part where it's like he goes too far. This is where he lets his instincts take over.
Damn it! What is it with Andy Serkis and biting off people's fingers in these stop motion movies? God.
Stop motion. What is this? Ray Harryhausen Planet of the Apes? That would have been weird.
Did I say stop motion?
Yes.
Motion capture. Stop motion capture. No. Motion capture.
Their relationship is awesome, but John Lithgow is one of the only characters in this movie that stands out even isolated from his relationship to Caesar. His performance and his character do. Do you think the neighbor is like annoying? Like it's like, oh, this character has to exist in these types of movies, and it's always a drag whenever we have to deal with them. I think he's nice in this because you like you did, you always forgot about him. I think that's a good thing, like the fact that you forget about him shows like, or he's there when he has to be, and then he's gone. Brian Cox in this movie, oh boy, Stryker from X2.
I forgot Stryker's in this movie. Holy shit.
Okay. So. Now we're getting into the Charlton Heston original movie part of this. And that's Julius or Dr. Zaius?
I remembered his character, but I forgot. Yeah, I'd say that he's Dr. Zaius and Draco Malfoy is Julius.
There you go. That makes sense, yeah.
Shut up, you freak!
And the other guy and the other guy is kind of Dr. Zira.
This is a much nicer enclosure than Charlton Heston ever got.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the really interesting thing, is that now we're not dealing with putting this into like a fancy smanchy, like a dark, twisted sci-fi version of it. Now this is like, we're literally just going to put a character we can relate to in a modern situation like this now, and show you how similar it is, and that'll be the creepy thing. PETA loves this movie. Ooh, this is their favorite movie.
Fucking PETA telling me I can't eat my burger.
Telling you can't eat your chimpanzee burger.
God damn it, this is America.
And chimpanzee is the burger that Jesus ate.
I would not be surprised, you know. He's in that portion of the world, is he not?
What?
Little north of there, but they could have imported some chimp. Why not?
Chimpanzees are not in, like, fucking Israel and fucking... No.
It's fucking Africa. They can...
Israel is not in Africa.
It's near Africa.
It's in that little triangle, sure, but it's not in Africa. And that environment is not for chimpanzees.
Damn it, Bill, it's all the same. It ain't America.
It's all a little darker than here, sure, I guess, if that's your point. If that's the point you're going to live and die by. You can be putting Andy Serkis in a cage, you racist piece of shit.
Damn foreigners. I prefer my red-blooded American Jesus.
I mean, presumably we all have the same color blood. I don't think that's different. I think it's more about the skin. You don't want swarthy, more realistic Jesus? I like his little outfit.
I hate it.
Yeah. Well, you don't like the CGI on it. I think fashion-wise, I think it works rather well. If he were to be critiqued on like one of those fashion shows on those vaguely transvestite channels, he would probably do well.
Imagine if this movie had been made in the 90s and Caesar had been played by MVP.
They were initially going to go with real apes. So, of all our special effects options here, you know, we think about motion capture, of course, being what they went with. Straight up CGI being what they could have gone with. Thank God they didn't. Oof. Makeup, or just going with real apes. Which would you have preferred? Which one?
I think they made the right call.
Yeah, I mean, I think with what we get, sure. Conceptually, you know, you and I are both purists of the makeup, of course. But I understand why I understand why they didn't go that route. I guess their options really were either we do the CGI motion capture or we do real apes. And in that world, yeah, motion capture is the better way to go.
Yeah.
Because I think if they did the real ape, it would have had to be more of like a Free Willy thing.
I like the use of stop motion for the early stages of the ape civilization. I would like, eventually, if we do enough time skipping and get
motion
into it...
capture. You keep saying stop motion.
Do I? Fuck.
Yep.
If we keep skipping forward in time and get to the classic ape sort of paradigm, I would like a return to the makeup. I doubt they'll do it, but I would love it.
It would be really cool if they could do it and make it look like the motion capture. Wouldn't that be cool? Especially
with how fucking good that makeup in the Tim Burton movie looked like. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine that level of makeup?
If we could get like a nice middle ground, that would be really nice. I don't think they will, though, yeah.
Can you imagine that makeup with Matt Reeves at the helm? Holy shit.
I think this will be his last one, too.
I think so, too.
It'd be nice if he sticks, because he's got Batman movies to make now.
Yeah, that's tenuous.
No, I mean, he sounds like he's pretty committed on that now. He's going to make like a dark detective movie, which is awesome.
Everything DC does, I consider tenuous until further notice.
Except the Wonder Woman movies. We're all sold on those, apparently.
Yeah. Well, they finally had a good one.
They finally did something right. Oh, thank God.
Now let's see if you can repeat your success, bitch.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Justice League yet myself. I do like the actor here. I think this is an instance of this actor elevates this dialogue, because this character is kind of nothing. He only becomes something once he starts having that weird relationship with Koba. Like, Koba picks him out as, like, you're the one who represents what they're doing to me. And I think that Koba in this movie is the best instance of, like, build up for a character that gets built upon with a sequel. He's
Well, yeah, him and Caesar, because I mean we see Caesar's character develop quite a bit over the course of the two films.
yeah, but he's the main character in this. Koba is like, he could have been like, this could have been all we got of him, and he could have been never referenced again in the next one, and we would have been like, all right, I guess.
Apparently, from what I understand, the prequel novel to War, which I will be reading, and at least somewhat involves the Ape Society still getting over what went down with Koba. So that's good.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm hoping that takes place closer to after the events of Dawn, because I imagine there's going to be a little bit of time in between that and this one.
Oh yeah,
Probably
well,
not as much time as between Rise
trailer,
and Dawn.
which obviously the trailers can always be misleading, but based on the trailer, he says, "I did not start this war." So clearly, the war has been, for the Planet of the Apes, has been going on for some time.
Do you think that Caesar tried to explain what happened to the humans?
I doubt it. They wouldn't have listened anyway.
Yeah.
I think, doesn't he say something to that effect in Dawn?
Well, I think once Woody Harrelson ties him up, whenever that happens in the movie, he's gonna be like, I might as well explain to you what happened because we're talking. We're having a bit of a heart-to-heart. There you go. There's your, it's a madhouse moment. Although he's actually going to say that at some point, Draco Malfoy.
He already did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Yeah, this was more the "shut up, you freak" moment, which same scene in the original movie, but they kind of split it up here.
Oh, I don't like his character though, Dodge Landon. He's so like unnaturally evil. Because
he's Draco Malfoy.
Well, I think that's the problem. If you're gonna make the character like that, don't cast him, because then it's too obvious and just too.
Well, I feel like
he's almost like a caricature, and that's no good.
Well, I feel like they cast him because he was Draco Malfoy.
Yeah, but don't you think it's like he doesn't feel like he's got anything to him? If we found maybe if we got some like real development between him and his dad, we could get a sense of why he is the way he is, but I don't get enough of that.
What you needed somebody who's kind of unassuming, but then you find out that he's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like imagine Topher Grace.
Well, originally, I don't know why I just thought of this, but do you know originally Tobey Maguire was supposed to be Will Rodman, right?
No, I hadn't heard. That's interesting. They went with the other Spider-Man guy.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. That was the funny thing. But yeah, he was replaced like 2 months before they started recording. Before they started recording. I mean, I guess sort of before they started filming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What happened to that? Did he back out, or did they just decide they didn't want him?
They decided he wasn't right for the role. I also don't think they thought he could work with the motion capture.
They saw Spider-Man 3, and they were like, oh no, we've made a mistake.
You'd think they also would have not cast James Franco for that, because he's also bad in that movie and a lot of it.
He's not as bad as Tobey Maguire is, though?
No, I mean he's a better actor than Tobey Maguire is.
And he was better in Spider-Man 2 as well.
Of course, every
Maguire
Man too.
Tobey Maguire was good in, from what I remember. There's a movie called Pleasantville.
Seabiscuit? No.
I never saw Seabiscuit.
Me
There's
neither.
a movie called Pleasantville, and from what I remember, it's been a long time since I saw that movie, but I remember liking him in it.
I've never seen it.
Do you know the concept?
I guess.
So Don Knotts, through means that I don't recall, zaps Tobey Maguire and Drew Barrymore into this like 50s sitcom world, like basically Leave It to Beaver, and it's all black and white and shit. And then like it's this whole thing. They start bringing their modern sensibilities to the town and awakening them to the beauties of life, and then color starts coming into the town. It's super sappy, but it was pretty well made.
There we go.
Anyway.
The birth of our first mutant, maybe.
No, he's dead.
He did.
That boy ain't never gonna be right again.
He got fucked by a gerbil, metaphorically. Get up and exercise, you lazy baboons. We should have seen some baboons in this movie.
Yeah, they were sticking to the original 3 species, I think.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Unlike Tales from the Forbidden Zone.
I really like this concept as well. The concept of like putting him in an ape sanctuary again to mirror Charlton Heston being put in that lab in the original.
Now, what I would have liked to see is Paul Giamatti. I think we all agreed he was one of the better parts of the last one.
Yeah, we didn't get any cameos in this in this franchise of people who have been in the other ones.
Yeah.
Charlton Heston pops up in a movie clip. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, was he still alive when this one came out? I don't remember.
No. I think he had just died.
Yeah, so no cameos from him. I would have liked a McDowell cameo. Is he dead too? Oh yeah, Roddy McDowell's dead too. Shit.
Yeah,
who's still alive?
He did.
Is Kim Hunter still kicking?
Nova's still alive. Kim Hunter, I don't think is still alive.
Really? What about Natalie Trundy?
I don't know.
Are they all dead?
It was a long time ago.
Wasn't that long? Jesus.
It was 50 years ago.
We'll see. Yeah, they were all pretty young at the time. You think some of them would still be kicking around? I don't know.
I mean, they've all got to be at least in their 70s.
Sure. I wonder if the kid from the first one is still alive. Zero and Cornelius' nephew. Give him a cameo.
I think we talked about that at one point in this series. Yeah.
Have him tell Caesar never to trust anyone over 30. Would have been great.
That would be awesome. Oh, this is a great bit.
That kid should have played James Franco. Nah.
So Koba is a character that's really well set up and used again in the next one. But so's Rocket. Rocket is Caesar's rival in all the bits in the sanctuary we were just seeing, and they got in that little fight. But
yeah, it's interesting. Rocket is the adversary in this film.
But he becomes like a massive ally of Caesar in the next one, whereas Koba is an ally of Caesar from the get-go here, but then in the next one, things go bad.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So, do you feel any smarter? You think he would ask him that?
They're giving him an eye test. Number 1, number 2. Yeah, can I see the last one again? Number 1, number 2.
So you guys know that one of my eyes is like completely glazed over, right? So this is a dick move.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Did they bring that back in the next movie? I remember the scars all over his face.
Yeah, he looks the same. He's darker in the next one, but I presume that's because of the time that's passed. He's older.
Do apes get blacker as they age?
I don't know, but it something happened.
They have like reverse Michael Jackson syndrome.
I guess.
I love Maurice.
Yeah, Maurice is another character.
He might be my favorite non-Caesar ape.
Are the supporting ape characters better than the supporting human characters? Yeah, right? At least, no, I guess just Maurice, right?
Maurice, yes.
I don't even know if Koba is as good in this movie as he is in the next one.
I don't even know if I would say... I don't even think Caesar's son is that great in the next one. You know?
I really like him. I think we're going to get something cool with him in the next one.
I don't think he's, as good as... I think Maurice definitely is a standout, but I wouldn't say that the ape co-stars on the whole outshine the human cast.
Buck is nice because he makes a tragic sacrifice.
He does. He gets
shot. He gets shot.
Right in the pussy. No.
He looks very Andy Serkis Kong in design. We'll see him in soon.
Well, it's not so much design, it's just accuracy.
Yeah.
That was the thing with the with the Peter Jackson Kong, it's very accurate to real
They were like,
gorillas.
Andy, you cannot play this gorilla, otherwise people are gonna know. They're gonna know our secret shame that we made that movie. No. Let go, man! I was Draco Malfoy. Well, I was Harry Osborn. Listen,
That's not a good
kids.
comeback.
Listen, kids. I was Striker in X2. I outclass all of you.
True.
The girl's just like, I'm hot. Just sort of.
Andy Serkis is like, bitch, I was Gollum. So all y'all can back the fuck up.
Yeah, Andy Serkis fucks them all over.
Can't step to this shit. With your magic wands and your gliders and daddy issues.
Brian Cox was also in An Adventure in Space and Time, so...
Was he the fucking...
He was the producer.
Holy shit! He's great in that movie.
He is. That's a good movie. So there you go. That's another leg up on him over James Franco.
If anybody's listened to this Doctor Who fan and didn't see the Adventure in Space and Time, which is the movie that came out for the 50th anniversary.
If anybody's listening to this, do you think that Apes would be a better group to do a commentary podcast on this movie than us? Like, do you think they would have more insight? Or do you think they would literally just be like,
I think the second one is the most likely, yeah.
But what if they weren't? What if they were like, holy fuck, this movie's awesome. That would be amazing to capture on recording. We should do like a next April 1st, we should do like a Talking Apes where we literally just take chimpanzee recordings and put it up. Because it would still be accurate.
Now, what we should do is get Jacob Baker to make us really good, like, ape masks and then be apes.
You mean like in real life, just pretend to be apes? Or genetically become apes?
We Roddy McDowell this bitch.
We Imboon relic this shit and we just become apes, like we just eat a fiber or something? I don't know.
I don't want that. I love bananas. But
banana oil.
Banana oil, on the other hand, does have its uses. So, but
I don't love this bit. The weird Mothra scene in GMK type of bit. You know what I mean?
No.
Because there's a bunch of teenagers that go to the lake in GMK that get killed by Mothra. Remember they try to kill the dog? You don't remember?
I know the scene you're talking about. I just don't quite understand the comparison.
Because there's a bunch of teenagers doing some stupid bullshit. And they're obnoxious. I know, I don't like it. I was just using that as an example.
But it's in here for a reason, though.
I guess.
It's part of the whole commentary. Oh, look how we treat the apes. This is bullshit. You know, it's like the scene from Mighty Joe Young, the original. And the
oh my god, give him some. Okay, they kind of flip it on its head. Oh, you need this scene. All right, I forgot about this bit.
Hey man, let's give him some. See what happens.
I actually really like this scene. Never mind. Although that was kind of a bad idea on Caesar's part. He probably knows that they're not going to tell anybody, though, because they shouldn't be doing that. So he is super smart.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody turn around on a scene as quickly as you just did. Holy shit!
Because I forgot that he steals the knife.
This scene's fucking bullshit. Oh, actually, I love this scene.
I don't love it. I think you need it. I mean, I guess you could get the knife some other way, but it's a good excuse to give him a pocket knife, like a bunch of dickhead teenagers. You know, Dylan, I'm watching a movie. Don't judge me, okay?
I'm always judging you, Bill.
Clearly. Sometimes I think that's literally all you do. Any of you. Get a fucking hobby.
What if my hobby is judging you?
Get a better hobby. I'm not that interesting. Caesar's like taking an awfully big risk here. Don't you think?
Even Caesar's like, don't kill me.
Yeah, I like that. But it's a very clever idea for him to get some power.
And Buck is like, we need guns! And he's like, all right, get back in there.
All right, yeah, no. You were. This was a bad idea. This is a mistake. The ape running cinematography in this movie is great.
What's the name of the guy who runs the place?
Brian Cox.
Yeah, his character. What's he called?
I have no idea. Something Landon, presumably.
You should have called him
Asshole.
Abe.
Apes no kill Abe.
Abe shall never kill Abe.
Gay ass shit.
Have him tell him that.
Inaccurate. Although I don't think he dies in this. On screen, anyway.
See, James Franco should have been a Spaniard, and his name should have been Armando if we were really going to do this correctly.
That's true.
He could have been played by Diego Luna.
I mean, he sort of does the same thing that Armando does. He takes in an ape orphan, so... Yeah, realistically, he should have been.
I don't know if Diego Luna was a name yet in 2011, but damn it.
Diego
He
Luna. He was in W, if that counts, if that makes any difference.
Diego Luna was in W?
Mm-hmm.
What did he do in that movie? Get deported?
He was something. I don't remember what in particular, but he was something.
That's what he's going to do when they get around to making a movie about Trump. T, as it'll be called. He'll be a guy who gets deported.
I figure they'll call that movie Covfefe.
I hope so. Shit.
Or Huge.
Can you just imagine Diego Luna's part in that movie? This is bullshit. I live here.
Or if you just did a movie called Trump, I figured that gives a lot of power. There's a lot of power in that.
Now we got to make the movie based on the election. HBT, whoever wins, we lose.
Hillary battles Trump.
In the dancing competition of the century. Wait, what?
This is a rather sad scene.
It is. John Lithgow is dying. Lord fuckwad himself. Not fuckwad, whatever.
Lord fuck what? It took me a second to realize, oh, you're talking about Shrek, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie would be so much better if it opened with All-Star.
I kind of always thought that Farquaad was supposed to be a sly way for them to get fuckwad into the movie.
I imagine that was the idea. Hey, he conveniently had this book here all about Caesar. I wonder if this is in any way connected to my monkey. Oh, he was using that as a bookmark. Well, guess that settles that.
James Franco, we need to talk about this. You've got to stop referring to your penis as your monkey. It is not endearing.
I don't think he's fucked this girl yet. He looks too afraid of her.
And you've got to stop painting nude portraits of Seth Rogen. That's weird.
Really, it's a real turnoff too.
You son of a bitch.
Stop putting on a different suit in every scene. You have too many suits. Let's get addicted to drugs together, Will. Let's get crunk on ALZ 113.
We saw Dawn for the first time. It had been a while since I'd seen this movie. So I'm looking at Koba, and I'm like, I know he was in the last one. Who the fuck was he?
Yeah, I was hoping he was going to come back, so I recognized him right away.
And then I remembered the helicopter sequence, and I was like, oh yeah, that kid. All right.
I like that they don't summarize Caesar's story in this one in Dawn. They just summarize the part of this movie that's really subtle, or subtle if you didn't stay to the end of the credits.
Right. Yeah, the way that they portrayed the whole virus spreading across the world at the beginning of that movie, while visually consistent with the end credits of this film, also just like a perfect opening, I thought.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of reminiscent of T2 a little bit. Or I don't know. I can't think of a better example.
In Red Dawn from 1984, the movie opens with just like a bunch of text summing up how the world got into the state it's in right before Cuba and Russia invades the U.S. It's kind of like that. It's just a way of being like, here's what's been happening in the world. And now here's the fucking thing you came to see.
No wonder this dude's so miserable. He got his finger bit off. He's getting sneezed blood on. Like, his life sucks.
Did his finger get bit off, or did it just get bit?
Most of it was swallowed, I saw. I love that he was totally going to let him take Caesar out with that money.
Damn, Caesar, that's not how you get somebody's digits.
Yeah, I really like this bit.
What else is Brian Cox in?
Oh, you bastard. Stop asking me things I don't know the answer to. I don't know.
You fail. You fail! No.
Well, you don't fucking know. You didn't even remember he was in X2. You fuck.
I remembered he was in X2. I forgot that he was the guy in this movie. I remembered his character, but I forgot that it was Brian Cox.
Caesar's a total tease.
No Google, damn it. I don't want that Brian Cox. I want the other. His name is Brian Cox.
I don't want Brian's Cox.
There are two Brian Cox. That's distressing. There's a British actor, and then there's this guy.
Who played a British man on a TV show.
Ah, fuck it. I can't find the answers. He's been in things, I'm sure.
I like that obviously Caesar is like really tempted to go with him, but he's not for the sake of all the other apes. That's why they cheer for him, obviously, because he decides to stay with them.
Isn't Maurice played by a woman, at least in this film?
I don't know. Maybe. Cookie. So what else haven't we talked about so far? Here's something. Do you believe that Planet of the Apes, in this context, makes sense as something that could happen? You think Caesar could really get away with this?
Probably not in the real world, but the way they managed to pull it off. They successfully suspend the disbelief, if that's what you're asking.
They have to have the humans underestimate the apes a lot in order to make it realistic. And that's maybe a little bit of a problem. But, you know, now that's not an issue because the apes are an established civilization on their own, so...
Yeah. I don't know. Well, in this fictional version of the Earth, the movie Planet of the Apes from 1968, of course, doesn't exist. So maybe they would.
Presumably, other Charlton Heston movies do. I guess that's the only one. Maybe it does exist. That would be weird.
I don't think it does, which means maybe they would underestimate the apes. I think humans in the real world might not be so quick to underestimate the apes because we've seen these movies.
Right.
So the minute an ape is able to even like spell his name, we'll be like, Planet of the Apes, kill it with fire.
I like that that's stuck as a thing too. Apes together strong. The stick analogy always stuck out to me. Get it?
Oh boy. I like how this movie turns into The Great Escape for a few minutes.
For a few minutes, it kind of. I mean, yeah, I guess it kind of. It's that, and then it turns into a big revolution. But I like all the stuff with Caesar stealthing around.
I'll tell you what it reminds me of.
What?
You remember Chicken Run?
Yeah, it is a little Chicken Run, isn't it?
Imagine if Draco Malfoy were trying to make 8-pot pies. Then it would be really Chicken Run.
It's a little the Garfield movie where they break out of a pound, you know?
I've never seen the Garfield movie.
I saw it in theaters.
Oh boy, I'm so sorry.
It's got Bill Murray. Bill Murray got me through that movie.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because in Zombieland, when Jesse Eisenberg accidentally shoots Bill Murray, and Bill Murray is dying in his arms, he asks him, he says, "Is there anything you regret?" And he says, "Garfield, maybe?" And everybody nods their head like, "Oh yeah, I understand." Yeah.
You think he would have said Garfield 2? Garfield 2 is the real nightmare. I saw that in theaters too.
I think he regrets both.
I don't think he remembers that there were two of them.
Garfield 2 would not exist without Garfield 1, you know?
I really like that he stamped on the dude's car. That was a really nice touch.
Oh yeah, was that intentional, you think?
Yeah, without question. Do you think he got smarter from that?
Who, Caesar?
Yeah.
I don't think you can double dose it. You know what I mean? I don't think it works that way.
He would still be smarter than them anyway because it's rooted in his DNA because of his mother though, right?
Yeah, I guess that's the idea. I guess that's why he develops a lot faster than the rest of them. By that same logic, the children, like his son and Rocket's son, would be innately more intelligent than the first generation of smart apes. It's kind of like in that story from Tales of the Forbidden Zone, where Taylor and Nova found a colony, and like the next generation of humans are smarter than the mute ones were because they've grown up being taught this shit.
Right. Oh, there's the Icarus. Well, now if they do a Planet of the Apes style movie in like the original in this universe, they have to cast those guys because we just saw them on the TV. I guess they could say that that's stock footage, but even still.
You think they give it? They're Fox. You think they give a fuck?
No.
Have you looked at the X-Men timeline lately?
I'm gonna rewatch this movie though. If they ever like, oh, here's the guys in the new Planet of the Apes movie, they're gonna crash land.
You're gonna rewatch it and you're gonna be like, actually, those are not the right guys.
Well, I'm gonna send it to them. I'm gonna send them a 2-hour-long loop of the footage of them
Send it to the actors.
I'll be like, where are these guys now? Why didn't you bring them back? Why were they good enough then but not now? You bastards.
What happened to one teen?
Government took one teen, replaced it with some bullshit called 11. We're the 9 that deny that shit. I'm here with your weekly cookies. Oh no, are you masturbating again? Oh Jesus.
Oh shit. He's dead.
He jerked it way too hard.
He didn't even strangle himself during. That's very unlikely.
Caesar's like, I'm not going back in, son. I'm taking a little walk. This dude has issues. He's watching the movie. The movie.
What movie?
Which Charlton Heston movie was he watching?
I don't know, I missed it. Well, what did it look like?
Charlton Heston had a beard. Does that tell you anything?
10 Commandments, maybe? Yeah.
I assume that's what it was. I don't know for a fact, though. I guess we
Did he ever have a beard in Ben-Hur? I never saw Ben-Hur.
I think he had a beard. No, he didn't have a beard in Ben-Hur. He was clean-shaven in Ben-Hur. Oh, we're about to have the big moment. So, okay, so far, CG is all holding up really well. It all looks really good. Caesar just got shocked. He's got to go Spider-Man and wail on the shocker now. Come on, do it, Caesar, do it. There we go. All right, the CG right there when he opened his mouth. Little wonky, but still, when he opened his eyes again, looked really good.
That was a great moment, though.
Yeah. Are you okay with the fact that they stacked 2 referential lines on top of each other? Like that's maybe a little much. Is like you have the reference to the original movie, and then you do the reference to Conquest with the no.
I like that. That's Caesar's first word.
Yeah, well, that's you gotta do that. But I'm asking you if doing the line reference to the original right before it is maybe a little much.
I'm alright with it.
Doesn't bother me. I imagine it bothers somebody though. Everything does.
What if Caesar had responded, "Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty human"?
I would have been like, bruh, come up with something more original. I would have said those exact words.
How did Michael Clark Duncan's audio get into this movie?
I like that Rocket looked a little scared.
Oh no, not the poor guy who wasn't as bad as Draco Malfoy.
I think Caesar stops them.
I always feel bad for those guys, the guys who get shit on just because they were hanging around with the dick, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's
David...
the idea here. Caesar is like, listen, you're fine. Just sitting there. Let me deal with them.
David Caruso in First Blood is like the only cop that's like trying to be nice to Rambo, and then he gets fucking stabbed in the leg. I'm like, oh man.
All because of all the shit he did on CSI Miami.
That doesn't line up.
Horatio Caine doesn't line up for nobody. Ow!
Genesis, did you see that?
Yeah, that's an interesting little foreshadow there to a future bad movie title.
It's foreshadowing the movie that the guy from the sequel to this movie will be in. It's all very complicated.
All right. So here's one thought I had that we haven't discussed thus far, and I think it's kind of important. So what do you think of the whole they put the guys in the spaceship prior to the apes taking over, like right before, like a day before, or like the morning of, and then they go up, and then the apes take over, or at least they don't take over, but they revolt. So what do you think about that? And maybe more specifically, how do you want that to be used in the future, if at all?
Was it literally the same day that the revolt started?
I think we saw it already. It was like a day before, a couple days before. They're lost at the very end. I think in the after credit scene when you see the pilot, I think there's like a paper that drops and it says like astronauts lost in space.
Right. Thankfully, they're in a better movie than Lost in Space. No,
I would say so.
It doesn't bother me. I don't give a shit.
Bother? Certainly not. I think it's really cool. Because it doesn't matter if they do anything with it. It's just cool that they set up the potential for it.
If it's a little convenient that it takes place so close to the Ape Revolt happening, when the fuck else are you gonna put it?
Oh, there's something else we have to talk about. What is this guy's deal? The guy who works with Dodge.
What do you mean? What's his deal? He got fucking locked in a cage.
He acts really weird, don't you think? Oh, there was the Lost in Space newspaper. So yeah, they're lost the day the apes revolt. That's pretty hilarious.
But so wait, what's your confusion about the guy? He got locked in the cage because
I'm not confused. I'm asking you, what's his deal? Like, why does he behave in the weird kind of like detached, like he acts very strangely. Don't you think? Like, don't you remember? Like, he's always like staring off at movies, like and looking lost and shit. I don't know. It's a very odd performance, I think.
I don't know.
I think if you think about it and you go back retrospectively, you'll see it. It's just very like he's clearly playing somebody who's socially awkward, but it's like it's ramped up to the extreme. So okay, so the apes are already ramping up here. It's convenient that the genetics lab is so close to the ape sanctuary. Although I guess they would feel that way as well because they're taking the apes from there to be experimented on, which I assume is illegal. Maybe not.
I don't know what the laws are regarding monkeys.
Maybe not. It's a good setup for Planet of the Apes, though. Oh, this is a big moment. That's kind of odd foreshadowing, I just realized. Because Caesar and Koba both kind of stepped into line with each other. They didn't look at each other. Then they looked off to different directions and walked in different directions. That's kind of cool foreshadowing for Dawn, because that's exactly what they do in their character arcs.
I suppose, although I don't think that was in the minds of the people making the movie at the time.
Maybe not. Koba is clearly supposed to be like Caesar gone bad, though.
I mean, I'm sure they had some vague idea that in a sequel, Koba would probably be a villain.
Yeah, totally.
Do the whole Lion King thing.
He's clearly supposed to be like the dark side of the apes' personality, because otherwise that's just Rocket, and that doesn't really work because he's good now anyway.
I always love that moment when Jacobs walks into the round thing and he sees all the apes.
So this is pretty much also the only action kind of sequence in the whole movie. Well, it's an extended action sequence as well. All of this stuff. Do you think that works? I do, and I think it's very simple. Every other Planet of the Apes movie works exactly the same way.
Well, yeah, but also it's not really an action movie.
No,
so
not
really
at all. Yeah.
Fucking matter.
As we discussed, the Tim Burton one makes that attempt as well. To make it more of an action thing. I mean, Do you think it was marketed as an action movie, though? It kind of was. They both were.
I don't remember the marketing, really.
It was a poster, it was a big banner of Caesar walking through the streets of San Francisco with his legions of apes, with his fist up in the air, and stuff was on fire. So I thought they were marketing it as kind of an action movie. I didn't necessarily think that when I watched the trailers, but although a little bit when you watch like the later ones, when it's just all this stuff, the apes running around the city. I assume some people thought it would be like World War Z, but with apes.
This was before
which
World
would be
War Z,
well, something like that. This is cool when they've got the fucking spears, and there's a really good moment in the soundtrack coming up that they used in the trailer where it's like the bang, bang, and they've got all the spears up on the roof, and we're gonna see that in a few minutes. Damn, this is such a good movie. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's the drop right there. Daft Punk just entered Planet of the Apes. That was a cool shot. Was this released in 3D?
I don't remember.
Was Dawn?
I'm sure it probably was.
It sucks. Who would watch this? Who would ruin this with 3D? This is all a little CGI-y. This all looks really cool. When they ran through the building, that was a really cool effect.
We certainly didn't watch Dawn in 3D, but it might have been released. I don't know.
We liked it. That's why.
It was many moons ago.
I like that Maurice gets his hands dirty. It shows that he's like, all right, I'm gonna fuck up this shit. Like he's a bit of a pacifist. He's very similar to Virgil in battle.
Well, his brain is all of these apes who aren't Caesar, their brains are kind of still developing. None of them have even the level of intelligence that they do in the next movie yet.
Do you think they're all like kind of high right now?
I don't know if I would define it in those terms.
Well, maybe not even like by a lot, like in like the sense of like they're on drugs. Just maybe like just mentally, just like they're riding high on like this sense of like power they have now. I think Caesar's leadership is also part of that. He's making them feel that way. This is the real money action sequence that was marketed, was the run across the bridge. The thing you also realize when you're watching them in action is how fast they are and how stealthy they are. So, this movie at least makes it feel like it's believable that they could do this. Running across the bridge is hard because realistically they should just get a bunch of helicopters up to gun them down. But they don't think that they have to put that much work into it. They think that they can just gun them down at the end because that's easier, and it's also why wouldn't they be able to do that? They're dumb animals. They'll just run right at them. That's what they're thinking anyway. Is it just me or does that guy look like a fat Michael Keaton?
A bit.
Go on to another bridge. This bridge is off limits. Any other bridge is fine. This shot was in every trailer. Although it was just a roar in those trailers. It wasn't him going, wait, stop. We should think about this before we run across this bridge.
It still didn't even sound like a word to me. I mean, the subtitles told me it was a word.
I remember that it was wait. Koba does this in the next one, too. Climbing across the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. Them using the sign language as a battle tactic, I hope, is something that comes back in war, because even though they probably mostly all speak now, although we know Maurice still uses sign language, we've seen that in the trailers. I I'd like to see them use sign language when they're actually fighting the humans to show, like, we can communicate information to each other more easily and secretly, so that most of the humans won't be able to understand unless by the off chance one of them knows sign language, as opposed to us, which we all do.
Maurice might just be using the sign language to try and communicate with the girl, though. I don't know.
Right, because I guess so. She does it for some reason as well in the movie. I haven't seen that specifically yet, but I guess that's the case.
From what I understand, she's supposed to be the first mute human.
Oh, so she's supposed to be like the first like human who can't speak.
Yeah, mute.
No, but like, there's some. I wonder how they're going to explain it.
It's probably chalk it up to the virus again. I mean,
really? Because it's not like that in the original. I almost said 616 because that's how I always think of like original recipe. But original recipe Planet of the Apes, it's a reluctance to speak because of the apes' wrath. Wow, that was amazing. And maybe I kind of figured it would be the same here, although that is a little hokey for this universe. I guess you would need some kind of biological explanation. So I guess the virus is fine, but if that's the case, I want my proper mutants too. I want my proper, honest-to-God mutants. Not nuclear irradiated, but like the virus can create some weird shit.
Yeah. That's just what I've heard, though. We might go into the movie theater and she's fucking quoting Shakespeare. I don't know. But from what I understand, she's supposed to be the first one.
Well, I mean, she's Nova, so that makes sense. That's awesome. I hope that that's the case. But I just wonder how that's going to come about. Because I do think that this is going to be like the last stand for the humans being anything. This army.
Seems to be the idea. At least that's the impression that Woody Harrelson has of it.
I'm sure he's wrong. Maybe he's not, though. He's got all this military equipment. Maybe he's, like, really checked. Why are we speculating about war while we're watching Rise? Because this is all just cool action. That's why. We're just watching the gorillas push. Oh, my God, that's so cool. The gorillas pushing the bus.
Yeah. I mean, earlier in this commentary, we were talking about fucking shit. What movie we were talking about earlier? Way out of left field. Anyway,
so
yeah, this is all. What do you want us to say, people? This is fucking great to look at.
Well, I've got more stuff to say. I really like that this movie makes use of the apes using more realistic moves that they can do because they're actual apes, or at least they're represented as such in CGI. In terms of the action, like we talked about how there's a lot of that in 2001. There's a little bit of that in 2001, and it's kind of unrealistic sometimes. It's so much cooler in this. Like, look at that, the way they're crawling all over the place and grappling around people, and the chimpanzees are like running through glass and stuff. It's really cool. And obviously, we're also not going to get it like this in war because they're all advanced now and shit. They've had the poison of civilization thrust upon them. They're going to be using weapons and guns. It'll be great, but this is awesome, and we've never gotten anything like this in this franchise before. So it's great to get it in this really killer way.
Even you look at Dawn, and already their posture in that movie is incredibly different than it is in this movie. They walk much more upright. They use tools more. In this, they're on fours most of the time.
When they come to meet Malcolm and his group, I mean, obviously we'll see this soon enough when we watch it, but do they all have spears, or are they all just like fists? I think they all have spears.
I think so, but
that says a lot about what's happened in the 8 years after this, when they braved machine guns with their fucking bare hands.
Wasn't it 10 years? Didn't Maurice say 10 winters?
Oh, maybe. I thought it was 8. I thought that was set 8 years after Rise, but I could be wrong. Ooh, that's awesome.
Well, Maurice doesn't even say 10 years since we crossed the bridge, or 10 winters since we crossed the bridge. He says 10 winters since they last saw a human, so who knows how long it actually took for the virus.
Oh, that's right. That's right. No, it's 2 winters.
No, it's definitely not 2.
All right,
I think it was 2.
we'll watch it soon enough. Oh wow, that CG like verged on being kind of shit. That wasn't great. Yeah, some of this definitely doesn't hold up CGI wise, but it's the general impact that matters.
It's very 2011.
Yeah. Oh, Buck never living to be the Aldo of this franchise.
Or at least the Michael Clark Duncan.
Well, oh yeah, he doesn't die in that. Oh god, that's so like brutal.
He's much more of a Michael Clark Duncan type character than an Aldo. He's super loyal.
This shit really got me in the theater because just like the imagery of like a chimpanzee and a gorilla, like just like being like intimate like that, like just in terms of being friends, like I don't know, I really kind of it's good imagery. It really, I think because they're animals. I think this is why this franchise has caught on so well. They're animals, so they kind of verge on relatability with everybody because you can just see yourself as a chimpanzee, you know. Or a gorilla, or whatever character you relate to. I think that's why this franchise has gotten popular nowadays and has stuck around, you know? But now, more so now because it's more about the apes now, which is cool. You know what's interesting? I don't know what it is. I think Caesar's more unsettling in this movie.
I think it's similar to his character arc in the original franchise. I think he's much more pissed off in this movie because of what's happened to him. And then
yeah, that's true. But I think it's also because he's younger, and he doesn't have like the kind of grade wisdom that he portrays. He's very fatherly in the next one, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got kids, so that makes sense. Yeah, that was a pretty brutal murder that just took place there. Koba seems pretty proud of it. James Franco doesn't seem too thrilled about it, but you know, he knew the guy, so that's fair. Realistically, he should run. Although Koba tries to get him later.
Yes, run, James Franco. Go become the captain of a colony mission to another planet.
And die in the first 5 minutes. Spoilers for a movie that came out like 3 months ago. Oh! Prometheus, Alien Covenant, another bad example of something that kind of tried to be like this. Not a reboot, but so a soft reboot, and tried to be like a standalone science fiction story, within another franchise. You know.
I don't know if I'd say that it was trying to be like this. It's playing it at a sense of. It's trying to be profound, is what it's trying to be.
It's trying to tell the origins of a major science fiction franchise. That's what's similar about it.
But it raises more questions than it answers.
Yeah, whereas this like makes things a lot more clear, and that's why it's so cool. That's what I think. I think that's probably the best example of all the shit I said earlier. Of something that, you know, tries to dig into a franchise we're all very familiar with and go like, okay, here's where all this came from, and then it's like, all right, well here's you know how the apes got weapons, and here's how the apes got smart, here's how they got organized, whatever, and it's just all it's cool and it's fun and it all has a good payoff and it makes you excited about the future and about what you already know about this franchise, as opposed to like, oh god, right, this is that. Whereas, you know, references can mostly feel that way in stuff like this. But we're approaching the end. This is a big moment. That in that moment, the CG was like impervious again, like just spot on. Yeah, this is we're quiet because this is good shit and we're watching it. My God, you should be watching it too, so relish in it. My God, just the emotional weight of computer generated graphics, looking at James Franco in awe, and now them looking at each other. This is a very Lion King moment. In the water, in the water. It's the circle of life. Seriously, the song fits perfectly.
Yes, especially if it were being sung by whoever sang it in that movie.
Yeah, as opposed to me. I see what you're trying to say. All right, Caesar, I'm gonna go up into space now.
Who the fuck did sing that in that movie? That wasn't
I don't
Elton John.
fucking know. No, that wasn't Elton John.
Elton John did something.
Elton John did everything else.
Okay.
When I first saw this, when you see San Francisco, I thought the whole thing was in flames, but that's not what happened. It's just because of the sunset. And because of the lights.
Barely any of it would be in flames.
Right. Well, the bridge is fucked up. You can see that. But that's it. Sasquatch sightings are going to increase exponentially. All right, D. Well, that's not it. There's still more to go. But, that being I think this movie at the time hit us in the sense of like, oh my God, this is the closest thing that's come to being as good as the original, because every scene felt like it had a cool purpose. Like this after credit scene, one of the best after credit scenes in a movie as well, or mid credit scene is more of the terminology.
Yeah, I wonder. Do you think this was at all influenced by the fact that the Marvel films were starting to ramp up at this time and doing?
No, because this is necessary. Because without this, the title is a total lie.
So were the Marvel ones when they first started out. Every one of them were necessary. It wasn't until you get to like Thor: The Dark World when they start throwing out shit that is just there for the sake of it. You know?
Oh, you mean like for the future? Okay, yeah, I guess. But this to me feels more like it's just part more of this movie. It enhances more of the story that was already told. Yes, it establishes stuff for the future, obviously, but I think without this, the idea of this being the origins of the Planet of the Apes is bullshit. I think with this sequence, you could have not done a sequel to this and that, and you could have gone, well, we told the origin story. You know, obviously they didn't. There was supposed to be more, but with this little bit, you go, okay, I can in my head figure out where that could have gone to get to a rough version of what we all saw Charlton Heston running around in.
This exact graphic here, this game of
global thermonuclear war.
No, there's a game that you can get on mobile devices where you design a virus and try to spread it around the world. I forget what it's called, but this whole intro here is,
Pandemic.
Pandemic.
I love that game.
This is how the fucking slaughtering humanity is great.
It's so much fun.
When Dawn came out, they actually put a intelligent apes virus in the game. But anyway,
holy fuck, that's awesome.
What the fuck was I saying? Oh, yeah, this is how the second movie opens. Obviously, I mean it's a
different. It's got a different flavor. This is more like boom, boom, and the Dawn thing is more like, oh shit, everybody's dying. It's so sad. That was more like an epic reveal. I like both, but obviously they put the Dawn thing in the way they did because they weren't sure everybody saw that. Although they put it so close to the end of the movie, I imagine mostly everybody would have sat through that much. Like, I don't know who just like shoots up out of the fucking seat when the movie's over. Like, what kind of psychopath does that? I always sit at least for a couple of minutes and get my bearings, Turn to my friends and family and go, what the hell did we just sit here for 2 hours and look at?
I like to sit through the credits.
Yeah, even for movies I didn't like, unless we have somewhere to go, or it's like I want to get high, or like there's alcohol. Then yeah, let's get the hell out of there. But if we're just kind of chilling, then I just want to kind of sit there and kind of marinate in what just happened.
If the movie sucked, I'm like, fuck this, and I'll get out and I'll leave. But if it was a movie I enjoyed, then I was like, these fucking people, they made this movie, they deserve me fucking watching their names fly by.
You sit there to honor them. We usually watch all the credits of the movies that we do commentaries on. We may not do that this time, but
not only that, but also these days there's 50% of the time there's shit after the credits. Used to be that was a rare gem. You know?
Yeah, now it's like you gotta kind of wonder.
When I was growing up, you could watch the same movie on VHS every day of your life, because that's what kids do, and never know there was anything after the credits until one day when you leave it running while you're playing with your toys or something, and then something happens, and you're like, wait, what the fuck? Now
I never had that experience. I always saw everything. I always sat through the credits of movies that I liked.
Now you fucking wait, because you know there might be something, and in the case of Wonder Woman, you're like, fuck, really? I could have pissed already, and then you leave.
Oh, there was nothing at the end of Wonder Woman, right?
Not a goddamn thing. No.
Yeah, I figured that. That movie didn't need anything. I'm glad they didn't do that. It would there's nothing they could, because the beginning and ending of Wonder Woman felt like an after credit scene. Not in a bad way. Although that was my least favorite part, was all that stuff.
I was expecting a little Bruce Wayne maybe there.
No, I'm glad he wasn't flaunting around his Ben Affleckness. I like him as Batman, but he was in his role in Suicide Squad made me go, I hope he's not the Nick Fury, and I don't want him to be in every movie. So I'm glad that he. I don't like. Well, the role. I'm fine with him being the role of Nick Fury in the Justice League, like assembling it. I don't want him to be the role of Nick Fury in that he appears in every fucking phase. So, like, quote-unquote phase one movie. Let's stop talking about superhero stuff and talk about Planet of the Apes, Dylan. What were your thoughts this time on Rise for the Planet of the Apes?
Well, before I say that, I would like to say that his combined 5 minutes of screen time were the best part of Suicide Squad. But anyway, how do I feel about Rise of the Planet of the Apes? I feel like it is a damn good movie. So far, Dawn is still my favorite of the trilogy, but this is a hell of a start, and just quality filmmaking on display here. This kid that directed it, he's like got like 5 or 6 credits to his name or whatever.
This 35-year-old man.
he needs to work more. He clearly knows what the fuck he's doing.
He knows his way around a camera.
Yeah, he knows how to record things and whoop-de-doo. No, but yeah, it's pretty damn good, isn't it? Andy Serkis, fucking whoever that. I'm pretty sure it's a chick that plays Maurice. Says everyone doing the motion capture brings their A game. James Franco gave one of his better performances here.
There were a couple of moments where we wanted to punch him in the face and throw him into a dumpster, but that's okay. That's to be expected. If given the opportunity, overall, would you help me punch James Franco in the face and throw him into a dumpster?
I don't know.
All right, what if it was Dave Franco?
Well, in that case, fuck him.
All right, let's do it.
James, it would depend on the circumstances. Dave,
yeah, what if he was drunk and he was like, we'd be like, oh yeah, let's do it, let's go, make this happen. I wouldn't punch him. I would just throw him in the dumpster. But Dave, yeah, we'd beat him up.
I hate that kid. I hate that kid with
we take a fucking tooth out and put it under a pillow and then take a nickel from him or something, like a reverse tooth fairy. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, Planet of the Apes is real good.
There's not liking an actor, and then there's when shit gets unhealthy.
And there's knocking out a tooth and stealing money from them simultaneously. Only a little bit, though. So I like this movie a lot.
Lithgow. I forgot Lithgow. Gotta love that Lithgow.
I have no great favoritism of either of them over each other, Rise or Dawn. But because I think they're very different movies, and I'm very thankful for that. And hopefully the next one sticks with that. But this one tells a very solid overarching character's journey, and it's rare to see it this engrossing and this well paced and simple and well understood and clear in its motivations, and just all of it works really well. As you said, it's just competent filmmaking. The cast is great. John Lithgow is the standout guy, not being a monkey, and all the people being monkeys, oof, delightful, simply delightful. So yeah, it's better than Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So
I would go so far as to say that it's in the realm of a Ghostbusters 1 even.
Yeah, it's as good as
good
Ghostbusters 1, sure. If not better. Although they're completely different things. Anyway, so that's Rise for the Planet of the Apes. We hope you enjoyed. Next time,
Right for the Apes.
we rised for the Planet of the Apes. This is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Now we're gonna dawn to the planet. No, it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I know, and from 2014, directed by Matt Reeves. A lot of the same 8 people come back, but a lot of the human people are different. So we'll talk about
Matt Reeves, of course, who will very soon in the future be directing Batman. Brought it back. I did it.
Oh
Full
my
circle.
God, you monster. He can Ben Affleck his Ben Affleckness all over that movie. It needs to be there. I can't wait for that. But leave it out of Wonder Woman.
Bring in fucking the other guy. Shit, Matt Damon. Make him Tim Drake. Do it.
Make him a Tim Drake who's older than Batman, because I'm pretty sure Matt Damon is slightly older than Ben Affleck.
Or he could be Nightwing. He could be
or he could be I thought he should be Green Arrow.
Matt Damon?
Matt Damon. Or Captain Marvel, aka Shazam.
What's the name of that, really old superhero from Justice League Unlimited? He wore, a cat suit and he was a boxer or something.
Oh, Wildcat, right? Wild Tiger?
Was that it? I almost said Catman, but that's a
No,
different
it's
guy.
not Catman. I'm pretty sure it's Wild Tiger.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's Wild
trained
Tiger.
Black Canary or some shit.
Yes, he trained Black Canary. I'm almost positive it's Wild Tiger. He's a very odd character. He's very Ben Grimm, the Thing, except he's not like a weird mutation. At least as far as I know. Maybe that suit's not a suit. He looks kind of like the Tick.
We need him in the DCEU. Having played by Powers Booth, because that's a name that I just thought of.
But he's dead.
Is Powers Booth dead?
He died 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You fucking with me right now?
Why would I joke about that?
I just watched Red Dawn. That's so sad.
Yeah. What if we go beat up Dave Franco? Would that make you feel better?
It wouldn't bring Powers Booth back, but it would make me feel better.
All right, let's do it. So, we'll be back for Dawn, and that'll be it. That's the last one, kids. Day 8. Right? Please tell me I'm right. Yeah, I think I'm right. Day 8 of Talking Apes. When we conclude...
No, you're not.
Oh,
was... Wait, are you asking what this was or what the next one will be?
What the next one will be. This was Day 8, wasn't it?
No, this was Day 7. I thought you said this was Day 8. And that's why I was like,
you got me so scared. All right, so I didn't fuck up initially. So Day 8 will be next time, and that'll be it. So that's it for Day 7. Until then, I'm Bill Worcester, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
I'm Super DM64, and he died months ago. Holy shit.
It's a madhouse! A madhouse.
God damn you all!